Hey folks, feels like just yesterday I was doing another patch notes, but Illwinter has been hard at work. I guess they had some things they wanted to get ready before the holidays. And yeah, we have a new patch, Dominions 6.24. So this is kind of a big patch. I don't make patch notes for the small ones, but there's quite a few things here. I'll try to cover them. I think this is a great patch so far. I hadn't been paying attention on the beta forums for a while, and so I didn't even know this one was cooking. But damn, there's some cool stuff. Okay, so End has a muster heathen ability, and it's more effective now, and sometimes it will give commanders. So for those of you who don't know, End has foreign recruit priests. There's a Holy 2 and a Holy 3 version, and both of those can muster heathen tribes that generate unrest. And this makes that a bit more effective. So that's pretty strong. There's a new spell, Army of Immaculate Mounts. Now, this one's pretty interesting. I'll go ahead and show it to you. Okay, so this is the spell, Army of Immaculate Mounts. It's nature 4, 2 nature gems, affects the entire battlefield, and it gives the Immaculate Mount buff. The text apparently isn't available yet. But this is the Immaculate Mount buff. It gives you 2 defense, 2 morale, and 2 MR. And this part is the part that's really important. This is the part why they almost assuredly decided that they needed to add this as an army-wide version. And that is because mounts get toasted by things like, the Winds of Death and things like that. We'll just take a quick example. TNC is actually a fine nation to look at. They get Sacreds. Human MR is like 10, and for Sacreds often it's like 11 or 12, sometimes higher. But for the horse, you can see it's horrible at 6. This means this is going to get completely crushed by Wind of Death. Yeah, it's really, really bad. And because of the way mount mechanics work, I still have hope that one day Illwinter will add a command that lets us fix infantry mounts so that they regain their mounts after combat. In my mind, you should. It's just the game is more fun to play. It would be much more fun to balance around that than the current thing, which is the infantry walks home and you get a discount on recruiting them again. But anyway, hopefully that'll be... There's a mod command that already exists, it just doesn't work for infantry. But yeah, so the horses, even with anti-magic, it gets them up to 10 MR. This is really, really bad. So like a penetrated boost, like a pin boosted Wind of Death caster will just completely tear up armies. It basically invalidates Sacred Cav, which are really, really good for the early game. Sacred Cav, especially good Sacred Cav nations, they're so strong in the early and mid game. And then it's Wind of Death comes out and it's like a brick wall. So this takes a bit of the edge off. At least there's some counterplay. Now, getting them up with anti-magic only to 12 MR is not great. Right? And now you need an anti-magic caster and an Army of Immaculate Mounts caster, and they probably both need to be turn 1 casters, which means they're not doing a communion or something like that or having to do Power of the Spheres. They just cast it. Because normally that's what you're dealing with is a turn 1 Wind of Death. Anyway, to get these things done, or to get, like, even once you have it set up, this is a significant improvement, but I think it still, like, I don't know. Yeah, horses still get ruined by Wind of Death, is I guess what I'm trying to say. But it's really nice. The other thing is it's a good buff for troops regardless. Like 2 morale is nice, and 2 defense on mounts is really sick. So that's that. Okay, there's 3 new thrones. I can't for the life of me figure out what they are. People haven't seemed to stumble into them yet, but I'm very excited to see what these are. Throne of Eternal Suffering now gives 2 morale to blessed units. So this used to just adjust scales. Like I think it gave you order and productivity, but decreased misfortune or increased misfortune. Now it also gives morale. So a bit of a boon to take. I hate taking misfortune thrones. I really do. So this gives you a better reason to take it now. So very cool. Fire damage, area of effects leave scorch marks on the ground. Meteors leave craters. So things like flames from the sky, gifts of heavens, fires from afar. What's the other ones? I can't remember. There's a bunch of flame areas, but it's like fireball and stuff. Presumably they leave scorch marks on the ground. Very cool. Gifts of Heaven got nerfed. There were some funny videos going out on YouTube. I think It's Mew had a good video. He's a great Dominions YouTuber, by the way, if you haven't checked out his channel. But very, very funny. I think he's very casual when he plays. You don't get the sense he's ever testing games or is too worried about it. But he had his god project self and just be like, oh, maybe I can get some guys with Gifts of Heaven. It's got like 4 Gifts of Heavens off, killed like the whole mage core of a major army. It was pretty cool. But yeah, maybe Illwinter saw that and they were like, let's tune this down a little bit. Because Gifts of Heaven actually needed this nerf too. It was a really, really strong spell. Basically, it was the same spell as before, but you also had this huge area of effect of like fire around each meteor. So I think this is a deserved change, nerfing the casting time. Chaos Power got less affected by Unrest. So Chaos Power used to be in Dominions 5. If you were in like a really like high Unrest province, you would get all the way up to 3 Chaos Power. In Dominions 5, now that scales can go up to 5, Chaos Power all of a sudden is potentially way better. It can go up to 5. Holy crap. I'm actually kind of sad I didn't get to play a Yomi game before this change went through, because it would be really fun to run around with little +5 stat Yomi critters. But that's just, strat is gone now. So Chaos Power is now capped at 3. You can only go up to 3 now in Dominion 6. And furthermore, it's nerfed beyond what it was in Dominions 5. So in Dominions 5, every 15 Unrest contributed towards 1 point of Chaos Power, and now it's 30. So Unrest is half as effective at generating Chaos Power. Okay, many 10 gold cost archers were reduced to 8 gold. So that's cool. I'm not sure what all... I don't think that hit crossbowmen. We can kind of see here. Like these guys, archers, they're still 10 gold. I'm assuming it's most of the indie stuff that got reduced. Because, yeah, these guys didn't get reduced. If we look at maybe a different nation that has kind of crappy stuff. I think these guys have Helot. Oh, no, they don't. They have Slingers. Okay, Baratos, these guys. Yeah, okay, these guys are 8 gold now. So I don't know how they picked which nations got the reduction, but maybe they have to have Archer in the title. Maybe somehow the TNG guys didn't. These guys get it? No, it says Archer, but they didn't get it. Maybe they have too good a gear? Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know who did the math on this. Did this guy get it? Okay, well, they were already cheap. Speaking of which, there's another change. I don't know if that's listed. Oh, yeah, here it is. So Hada are now cheaper. They were 5 gold and they went to 4. This actually is kind of insane. Not insane, but it's good. This doesn't look like a huge change, but it's a pretty big change to upkeep. It's a pretty big change to how much it costs to get Marcata. Marcata aren't... I mean, they are bad, but they aren't horrible when you need them. There's certain cases where Marcata are really good, and this makes them a little bit better across the board. About 25% better, or 20% better. So, sick. Kailasa got cheaper holy troops. This actually is a pretty major buff to Kailasa. I think it's really interesting. So the Kailasa troops, I'll go ahead and pull them up. Kailasa Sacreds here. These guys, I believe, were 30-ish, right at low 30s, like either 30, 32, or something like that, back in Dominions, like in the previous patch. And yeah, they're just straight up way cheaper. Like this, I'll pull up Dominions 5, let me check. Okay, this Dominions 5, and these guys were 30, and then the guys without this were 27. So, yeah. That's pretty sick. Compared to this, they are now... Yeah, so these lost 6 gold, and these lost 5 gold in their cost. This is a major cost reduction. I think there's some... Okay, let me talk through some of my thinking of why I think this is justified. One is that I think, for the most part, blesses are a little bit weaker in Dominion 6 compared to Dominions 5. I mean, there was a lot of kind of hand-wringing about the Fear Bless and stuff, but in general, stat res net blesses got severely nerfed, and those were the strongest. I feel like with the way the scales changes have been, so that you can now only go to -2, you can't really go to -3, it's a lot harder to do a full Hell Bless. So... I think kind of in general, blesses are weaker. And so a nation which is going to rely on sacreds is sort of going to be a bit worse off. So that's kind of interesting. These guys, this is definitely a nation that sort of relies on sacreds, and you kind of, because there's so many holes in this, like to make this unit work, there's just so much you have to do to it. Like it gets mowed down by archers. It doesn't have great attack stats or defense stats. Like you need to put some stats on it. You basically have to give it some protection in some way. You don't have to, but you sort of want to, right? Like you need some protection. Like how are you going to make this work? You have so many things you need to do in the bless screen that it's really hard to, I think, get these. It was hard to get them to work in Dominions 5, I think. But you could, and there were some people, I know Sakane played them a good bit, and they had expansion figured out. They were working pretty well, but then they sort of just, I don't know. I've never seen them win a game, but I've seen them do very well and stomp players on a map into the ground. But I think in 6 it would be harder. So anyway, I think this nerf this buff is warranted. So I think Kailasa, if this is a nation you want to play, this might be a good time to dust it off and try it out. Their sacreds are significantly cheaper. The Markata are cheaper too. And I think that's a pretty good combo. Okay, so the Kailasa got cheaper. Holier troops. The Lion Warriors are more expensive. Let's go ahead and pull that up. So Lion Warriors are here with Machaka. So these guys now are 50 gold, which is quite pricey. They're a really good troop, though. They basically get invulnerability built in, and then they have a lion pelt, which is kind of nice. The thing that I think what makes this troop kind of work is that the only things really that have magic weapons are usually sacreds, and then plus some like elementals. But they have a magic weapon built in. Magic weapons are more rare in Dominion 6, so this is like a higher value tag. And then because this does fatigue damage to sacreds, they're kind of set up to deal with the only things that are going to get past invulnerability. So they actually have kind of insane protection against mundane. So these guys are really solid. So they've made them more expensive. I can't remember how much they cost. The mod inspector says they cost 40. It's not always right, but this would have had the previous patch data in there. So that's likely what it is. So this is a cost increase of 40 to 50 for Machaka. For early age Machaka. So I don't think they needed this. I don't know. I mean, early age Machaka I don't think is steamrolling games. I think just looking at the Lion Warrior by itself, I could easily see why it's a really good unit. It deserves to be a little bit more expensive. And early age Machaka has other things going for it. It's not like the nation's weak, but I don't think people are like winning lobbies with early age Machaka that this really needed a nerf. But I think it's justified in itself in a very kind of narrow way. So I think this is probably fine. Tweaked armies, start armies for some nations. This is always good when you see it. I don't actually know what these are. We can probably get Loggy or somebody to go look at some of the. There's people that can reverse engineer what all changes were in a patch, so we can maybe look at that. But there have been, I know various people have made lists of. Somber has a mod, I think, better starting armies. And it basically just seeks to give nations about the same resource in gold worth of stuff. So if a nation has low resource units it's going to get more gold value of units and vice versa. So there have been a ton of people who have, there's like a mod you can get for better starting armies. I think this is a fine mod probably to put in multiplayer games. But yeah, and so people have shared a bunch of feedback about starting armies with Illwinter. So I think anytime Illwinter makes a decision to adjust some of these, it's probably going in the right direction. Okay, AI now respects diplomacy offsetting, meaning they'll just attack you. Pretender sensing thrones now reveals them for disciples. Previously, only the pretenders would see thrones. This is something that happens, by the way, whenever your pretender wakes up. It'll show you the throne provinces on the map. Summon animals now has more appropriate cave animals. Very cool. I'm assuming that's like cave cows and stuff. Apostasy, so this is a spell special to, I think, Scalaria and to Lemuria. It's shorter range and can't target mounts. Apostasy was sick against mounts, because again, they're really low MR. You basically ping them with and because they're low MR and high hit points, they attract a lot of aggro for these charm spells. So you basically charm the mount and then they dismount and then they have to fight the charmed mount. So it fucks them up, basically. So anyway, it's shorter range now, so you can't spam it quite as much. And yeah, and of course, when you kill a mount, the unit's dead after combat effectively. You have to go, you get a recruitment discount if you get them again and they make it back. But Geas can now no longer target mounts. I don't actually know what this spell is. We can find out. Okay, so this is a Geas. I don't know why it doesn't pop up when I click on it here, but anyone will attack. The victim will attack anyone nearby, basically turns them kind of crazy, ends by passing a very difficult morale check and a morale check, and results in a permanent curse. So I guess this would probably cause Mountain Rider to dismount. And so anyway, it doesn't target mounts anymore. That makes all the sense in the world to me. Okay, Invisity, Blur, and Displacement no longer stack. I think that makes a ton of sense. I don't see why these would stack. If you can't see them, why does it matter if they're displaced? So that seems to make sense to me. It's a bit of kind of anti-synergy in the Glamour path now. Message for found items in a remote attack. So this is if you get flames from the sky and a bunch of your stuff dies, but you like pick it up. So this is a cool side effect that I hadn't really thought of before. But if you're getting remote attacked by flames from the sky and it kills your guys, because it's now happening in a battle, you could pick up the items. So that was like in some ways a nerf to flames from the sky and stuff, which I think is cool. But you didn't know what items you picked up. It was hidden from you, I guess. So now it displays. So very cool. Fix for dispersing units retreating to the wrong provinces. Vengeance of the Dead no longer affects sleeping units. Dreams of Relay no longer affects never sleeping units. Ritual of Rebirth no longer works on spirit form beings. This makes sense because you need a corporal body. Pop-ups could cause flickering fade effects fixed. Fix for incorrect growth info on heat-cold scale. Jinn in the Lamp, so this is the unique artifact, now get glamour instead of astral. Fix for possible population overflow. I'm sure it's very hard to get a population overflow in a non-modded game. Conscription is now dependent on order scale. Population overflow is... Oh, I was thinking this was the programming term overflow, but this might be somehow like population moving on a map. I'm not actually sure. If you know, put that in the comments. Conscription is now dependent on order scales. This one tripped me up for a bit. So I was thinking, okay, conscription, this is the TNC national ability, but I don't think it is. And then somebody was like, no, conscription is in the manual. Conscription is a phase in the turn order, in which various things happen, like the province defense, if you own it, is set to 1. And then other commander effects happen. But I think, because I went and checked, I was trying to figure out what this one is. What conscription is, I believe, is, I think we have to pull up EA-er. And so if we look at these elders here, the defense organizer ability changed, I think. The PD value will increase by the same amount as the province's order scales each month, or at least the value of this ability. So it's a max of province order scale or this ability that caps at 19 for the province. So what does this mean? This guy has defense organizer 1. So for this guy, if you had 2 order in a province, which I think is you probably want to run order. And they get an order limit of 3 because they get the +1 here. So if you're running order 3 these guys can increase PD by 3 per turn. That makes them way better value. So that's pretty cool. That's a low key buff. Now there's not many nations that get this. Okay, this tag only exists on a few troops. There's a middle TNC troop that has it, but it's Defense Organizer 2, so it's not really getting a buff from this. It's kind of the same. And I think there might be one other nation that has it. Okay, so that was Conscription, which I think is really Defense Organizer. Mind Blank didn't work against Magic Duel, which is strange because that's the whole purpose of Mind Blank, and I thought I had seen it in-game working in the game you were just watching us cast which is the game with Demosthenes and Darkside Cookies playing, playing Shinuyama. So I'll pull this up real quick. So Mind Blank. Okay, so Mind Blank, there was a lot of people who did not like how kind of not strange, but just Magic Duel behaved very strangely compared to other spells and dominions. I think it was fine. I think it was this kind of like interesting astral supremacy thing where if you're a low level mage, you can't fuck around with, astral nations that have a bunch of astral mages because they'll just like Magic Duel you and they'll be the only ones with astral on the field. I think this is really cool kind of astral supremacy idea. However, having your super combatant god of nations that has 3 astral on them just categorically get deleted every time a few astral 1 mages decided to Magic Duel, that I think felt bad to people. And there's not really, you can't put items on it that increase the magic, like the astral of the god or the unit that you wanted to protect. You couldn't stack magic resistance. You couldn't do anything. Well, now there's something you can do. You can cast this spell, Mind Blank, and it gives you a 75% chance plus 10 MR versus the next mind affecting spell. 75% chance of granting an MR check in order to negate a Magic Duel. So basically, you get a chance to do a MR negates check on Magic Duel, is my understanding. 75% of a plus 10 MR. So I think it's whatever your MR is plus 10. I don't actually know how this works. But I think the way to think about it is you have a very good chance, if this to me reads very good chance, so of negating Magic Duel. Right? So 75% of the time you'll get an easy to pass MR check is what it looks like. Though I could be wrong about that. But anyway, the patch says Mind Blank didn't work against Magic Duel, which is the whole thing it's supposed to deal with. So I don't know exactly how that didn't work, because we had seen it in another game work. But perhaps it stopped working or something like that. I don't know. Because maybe there was a patch or something that broke it. Because in the replay we watched recently, one of the changes in the replay was that it didn't protect them that particular time. We thought it was like different RNG, but could have been somehow it was messed up. Anyway, should be working better now. Network couldn't handle turn files larger than 300 megabytes. Unfortunately, there were a few degenerate games that had turn files over 300 megabytes, which means enormous maps, tons of players, lots of units. Yeah, I can't imagine having it. I mean, that's almost as big as the whole damn game is installed. I mean, these are real degenerate people that have turn files this big. That's all I'm saying. I know I've had them in the mini megabytes. I don't think I've ever had 300 megabyte turn files. And I'm very degenerate. So that just gives you a sense of what these guys are dealing with. And not all nations in the same game have the same turn files. The more units and stuff and more provinces you have, the bigger your turn file is more likely to be. Okay, spell targeting fix regarding healing spells. Nice. I don't actually know what that was, but good. Can press Control-L to load map in the settings screen. Cool. Finding a magic item in a site will now put it in the lab if it can't be carried. Cool. Fix for ritual auto targeting of Mirror of Earth's memories. This is a spell that's basically site searching, and you can do monthly casts of site searching spells, and the auto targeting for it apparently was bugged, but now it works. This is actually really funny. There was a bug where if you had a really, really big army, 12,000 people in it, you could spill around the edges of the wall. So you have a wall, the fort you're trying to storm, and it looks like a square. You can't get through it. And normally you wouldn't, because the units will all clog up and wait to pass through the gate. But if you have a sufficiently large army, they'll try to go around the sides, and there's a hole, like it doesn't, you can't see it, but there's a crack in the wall that you can slip through in the corners. And anyway, that got reported and fixed. So Galegate is supposed to, it gives you, Galegate is a global enchantment. It gives you a ton of air gems. And it had always in Dominions 5 had flavor text saying that it generates hurricanes. It was supposed to generate hurricanes which destroy population and cause unrest. But it never did. And there were many patches saying that it fixed it. But apparently sometime, I don't know when it happened, I think it was after the launch or maybe during the launch of Dominion 6, it actually did cause hurricanes. And apparently it caused too many hurricanes. And I think they made it easier to control them, which I think means less hit-friendly territory. I don't know how this works. I'm really interested. I'm going to have to research this, I think, afterwards. But I want to go ahead and put this video out. But yeah, they made it more difficult. So I think it was like, didn't work at all. Then they made it too easy and hurricanes would never hit you and only hit others or something. And now they made it more difficult. I don't really understand this. Let's pull up the flavor text, see what it says here. So, generates 20 air gems a turn. Air elementals are bigger. Creates a random amount of hurricanes. Caster has air magic skill times 5% chance of directing a hurricane to enemy provinces. So if you have a really high air caster, then it's more likely it's going to go to an enemy province. I don't know if these are normally created in your land. If you don't pass this, does it get created in your land? If not, does it go somewhere else? I don't know. It's very interesting, though. Only a few more left here. So Mako now has a rebate for Shield of Gleaming Gold. Lightning Field didn't have its full effect. That's now fixed. Can copy and paste orders in the army positioning screen. I think you've always been able to do that. Let me see. Okay, so I've got the army positioning screen. And I've got hold and attack on 2. So if I hit 2, it goes. Interesting. So that works. So basically anything that you copy and paste here. So let's say I put this on control 1. If you hit control S, it'll show you what the orders are. So if this is control 1, so I'll put this on fire, right? So I can put this on control 1, and then when I hit the 1, it'll go over it, right? So anyway, I can, let me see if I can hold and attack closest. I'm going to go in this, I'm going to pick this, hold and attack closest. I'm going to do control 1, which will hopefully select it. And then if I hit 1, it'll paste it. Yeah, so you can do control 1, control 2, and copy orders. Now where this will be really useful is also for commanders, right? Because I could put a commander, be like, oh, you can basically, they're moving to the point where you'll be able to fully, you basically won't need this screen at all, except for selecting what's in the squads. You'll be able to script your entire army from here, which I think is a much better UI. It's kind of weird because it's like behind this UI. But I think in some ways this should be the primary UI where you script battles. And not having to go back and forth between these screens will save a lot of time. So this actually might be, and I didn't even realize it until just now, but this might be my favorite change of the patch, just because it's moving in the direction of making this UI much more powerful. And what this means, the significance of this, is you can script potentially way larger battles. If you never have to go back to this screen, you just do it in here and you're moving everybody around, you can potentially script much larger battles probably in about half the time. So that'll be really interesting. If you're in a mid-game, late-game, try scripting your battles only from this screen, right? You have to use hotkeys and stuff a lot, but it should be way faster. But you don't have to use it for everything, right? Like you can still click up here and tell things what to do and do the orders. So very cool. Okay, this is a really strange one. Polypole mothers and polypole queens can now also do aboleth only rituals. So basically the only ritual I know of that's like this is Mind Vessel, which allows you to give your astral paths to a commander. But these are only Astral 1, and the only commanders they can give them to are Astral 1. So I don't know how you give your Astral 1 to an Astral 1 commander. This is very confusing to me. I think it makes sense lore-wise that these guys are aboleths, but like, how is this supposed to work? I don't understand what this mechanically does in the game. Somebody was saying there is a Polypole Queen Pretender you can get, which should also be affected by this. So that is, I think, the only use case I can think of that made sense. Okay. Some foreign recruit units can no longer be recruited in caves. I think this might have had to do with end, and I think they might have walked back parts of that. I'm not totally sure about how that worked. Knife of the Damned's Cursed Luck didn't work. That's been fixed. Fix for length of natural weapons. I actually have no idea what that is. And then there's a bunch of new mod commands. So let's take a look. A bunch of plane recruits. Let's see. Bug shape swarm. I actually have no idea what half of these are. Let me pause. Okay, there's a bunch of things. I don't think there's anything I need to go over here in the video, but always good when they add mod commands, because these are usually coming from mod makers and things like that. So, or fixing bugs. There's quite a few of those listed in here. So very cool, pretty cool patch. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Illwinter's given us 2 huge patches back to back, and pretty much I think the changes I think the death or the fear got over nerfed. And it's kind of weird because I, on the beta forum, was like, yeah, I think it's probably okay. But I didn't think about the fact that Demi Liches also got nerfed. But I think the last patch, the Demi Liches got hit with a major cost increase. And then the Fear Bless itself got nerfed. And then the Fear Bless got made more expensive. I think that was probably the only thing that wasn't an amazing change. Because I think Fear's... I'll be interested. It might be Fear still good. But it might be Fear is kind of... way over nerfed now for being used in competitive play, but be interested to see what people think. But I think in general, that aside, the changes in these past couple of patches have been amazing. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the patches and enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys next time.